They say small towns hide big secrets. I used to think that was just something people said to make life seem more interesting. But now, after everything I've seen, I know better. My name is Michael. I'm 26. A year ago, I left the noise and smoke of Chicago behind, chasing the promise of a quieter life. My savings were drying up, I'd lost my apartment, and I needed a fresh start. When I saw the job listing for a night shift cashier at a Dollar Tree in South Dakota, I didn't think twice. It paid little, but I didn't care. I just wanted somewhere to disappear for a while. The town was called Black Hollow. Ever heard of it? Probably not. It's one of those forgotten places on the edge of nowhere, where the sky always feels a bit too heavy and the streets look like they gave up trying a long time ago. When I drove in, it was late afternoon, and the sun was dipping low, casting a tired orange glow over everything. The gas station attendant didn't smile when I asked for directions. He just stared and said, "Good luck," before turning away. That should have been my first warning. The Dollar Tree stood alone at the edge of town. A flat, ugly building with peeling green paint and cracked parking lot lines. There was something off about it. I couldn't explain it. The windows were too dark, like they were watching me. I brushed it off. Long drive, empty stomach, nerves. That's all. Inside, the store looked like any other. Rows of plastic bins, cheap candy, seasonal decorations nobody wanted. But the silence? It pressed against me the moment I walked through the door. No music, no customers, just still air that smelled like dust and lemon cleaner. That's when I met James, the manager. He stepped out from behind the employee door without a sound, as if he'd been standing there the whole time. Tall, pale, and thin. Too thin. His black hair was slicked back, and his eyes were the kind of dark that didn't reflect light. He smiled at me, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're Michael," he said, like a fact. I nodded. "Good. You'll do." He handed me a clipboard with a thin stack of paper. On top, in large red letters, was written, "Dollar Tree Employee Rules, Black Hollow Location. These rules are not suggestions. Follow them. All of them. Always." I blinked. "Is this a joke?" James didn't laugh. "Go ahead. Read them." I scanned the list. Some rules seemed normal. Clock in no later than 9:55 p.m. Clean up spills immediately. Then others took a strange turn. Do not enter the break room after 2:34 a.m. If the store phone rings after 3 a.m., do not answer it. If you see a second moon in the sky, do not acknowledge it. Never, under any circumstance, look into the mirror in aisle 7 after midnight. I looked up slowly. "Is this serious?" James just smiled again and said, "You'll get used to it." The strangest part? Everyone else, 3 other night workers, acted like the rules were normal. Routine. Like they'd lived with them forever. I should have walked away. I should have said no. But I needed the job. So I signed at the bottom of the page and started my first shift. And that's when things began to go wrong. Real wrong. I clocked in at 10:59 p.m. sharp. The air inside the Dollar Tree felt heavier at night, like the building held its breath the moment the last customer left. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was too quiet, too perfect. Even the hum of the freezer aisle sounded muffled, as if the walls were listening. It was my first night shift. James handed me a mop and nodded toward the back. "Keep busy," he said, already walking away. "And remember the rules." He didn't explain which rules. Just walked back into his office like he had more important things to do than talk to the new guy. I reached into my pocket and unfolded the list he'd given me earlier that day. The red ink still looked fresh. Rules for night staff. Do not speak to customers after 10:15 p.m. Do not restock aisle 4 unless told directly. Do not check the security feed between 2:13 and 2:44 a.m. Do not enter the staff restroom after 3 a.m. Never, under any circumstances, look into the mirror in aisle 7 after midnight. I chuckled quietly. It felt like something out of a campfire story. I folded the paper again and shoved it into my back pocket. Ridiculous. The night shift team was small. There was Luis, who barely said a word but gave friendly nods. Then Tom, an older man with heavy bags under his eyes and a limp. And Jenna, probably mid-20s, sharp eyes and sharper instincts. We didn't talk much at first. Just moved around each other with awkward silence as we cleaned, restocked, and organized. It wasn't until I was wiping down carts by the front entrance that Jenna finally spoke. "You read the rules, right?" I nodded without looking up. "Yeah. They're fake, right?" She didn't answer. I glanced at her. "They are fake, right?" She shook her head slowly, her eyes scanning the store like she was checking for something. Or someone. Don't joke about them, she whispered. Don't test them. This place, it listens. I raised an eyebrow. Come on. You seriously believe that stuff? Jenna leaned closer. The mirror rule? That's the worst one. People disappear. I waited for a punchline. She didn't give one. Instead, she walked off without saying another word. It was around 12:04 a.m. when I found myself in aisle 7. I hadn't meant to be there. I was organizing some canned food in aisle 6 and turned the corner to grab a box. That's when I saw it, the mirror. It hung at the very end of the aisle, above a row of birthday cards, angled just enough to show the full stretch of the aisle. It looked normal. My reflection looked normal. I stepped closer. The store behind me looked the same in the reflection. The bright lights, the polished floor. But my reflection, something was off. I lifted my hand to scratch my head. My reflection didn't. My heart skipped. I moved again, slower this time. I stepped to the right. The reflection smiled. I wasn't smiling. It was me, but not me. Its eyes were too wide. Mouth stretched too far. And then it leaned closer, pressing its forehead against the glass. Blood started to drip from its eyes. It opened its mouth and whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but I felt it, like the words crawled inside my ears, even though no sound reached me. I stepped back fast, nearly tripping over a mop bucket. And just like that, my reflection returned to normal. Just me. No smile. No blood. Nothing. I blinked and backed away until I was out of aisle 7. Jenna was standing by the checkout counter. She must have seen my face because her expression changed. You looked, didn't you? I don't know what I saw. You looked, she repeated, voice flat. That was rule number 5. I didn't sleep the next morning. I lay in bed with the list beside me, staring at it until my eyes burned. I knew it was just a mirror, just a reflection. And yet, I couldn't forget that smile, or the way it looked at me like it knew something I didn't. That night, Jenna didn't show up for her shift. No one mentioned her. No one asked where she was. It was like she had never existed at all. They say curiosity killed the cat, but no one ever talks about what it does to people. I couldn't sleep after my first shift. My mind kept circling back to the rules, especially rule number 7. Never look into the mirror in aisle 7 after midnight. It wasn't just how oddly specific it was. It was the way Jenna had warned me, her voice low and eyes scanning the store like she was being watched. That fear in her voice, it wasn't something you fake. The next night, my shift started the same way. Quiet store. Dim lights. James doing his usual routine of vanishing whenever something strange happened. Jenna didn't show up. When I asked Tom, he looked confused and said, "Who's Jenna?" He meant it. That's what scared me. A part of me told me to walk away, to keep my head down, and just stack shelves like I was hired to do. But the stronger part of me needed to know. Needed to understand what was really going on in this cursed place. So I waited. Midnight came slow, dragging its heels like a death march. The moment my phone struck 12 a.m., I walked to aisle 7. My footsteps sounded too loud. The store was deathly silent, like it was holding its breath. There it was. The mirror. Just a plain, dusty rectangle mounted on the wall above the discount soaps and shampoos. But something about it felt wrong, like it didn't belong here. It wasn't part of any promotional setup or customer convenience. It was just watching. I stood in front of it, telling myself this was stupid. That I'd look, laugh, and go home with a great story to tell Luis tomorrow. I looked. At first, nothing happened. I saw my reflection staring back, messy dark hair, bags under my eyes, Dollar Tree vest crooked on one shoulder. Then it blinked. I didn't. It blinked again, slower this time, and smiled. I wasn't smiling. I stepped back, heart thudding. My reflection leaned closer. Blood began to drip from its eyes like tears. Its mouth moved, whispering something I couldn't hear. I could feel its voice, though, inside my bones. I turned to run, but something heavy held me still. The mirror fogged up, like a breath was pressing against the other side. And then words began to appear in the condensation, slowly, one letter at a time. "We see you." My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. I stumbled backward, knocking a basket of soap bars to the ground. The crash broke the spell. When I looked again, the mirror was normal. My reflection was just that, me. Pale and shaking, but me. I ran to the break room, grabbed my stuff, and left 10 minutes early. I didn't care. I just needed air. The next morning, I walked into the store like nothing had happened, trying to pretend I'd imagined it all. But then I noticed Jenna's name was gone from the schedule. Her locker was empty. Her employee photo was gone from the wall. When I asked James where she went, he looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "There's no Jenna here, Michael." He said it calmly, too calmly. But I remember her. Her nervous smile. Her voice warning me. She was real. Wasn't she? I stood in aisle 7 later that day, staring at the same mirror under the pale white light. And for just a second, I saw it again. That reflection, grinning wide, eyes bleeding. And in my head, a whisper. "One down." I didn't sleep well after Jenna disappeared. Her name echoed in my head like a forgotten tune I couldn't stop humming. The way she looked at me that last night, her quiet voice, her warning. Don't mess with the list. People disappear. Now she was gone. No goodbye. No trace. No mention. I asked around the next morning, pretending to be casual. "Hey, anyone seen Jenna today?" I said while clocking in. Tom blinked. "Jenna?" He tilted his head like I'd spoken in a foreign language. "You know, brown ponytail, blue eyes? The girl who worked nights?" I added. He chuckled nervously. "You feeling okay, man? There's never been a Jenna here." I froze. Even Luis, the guy who joked with her about the weird gum wall in the back room, just shrugged and mumbled something about me needing sleep. Something was deeply wrong. I kept my head down during the shift. The store looked the same, but now it felt hollow. The aisles were too quiet, the flicker in the lights too steady, like they were watching. Even the air smelled different, like something old and damp was hiding behind the walls. I found myself watching the manager more closely. James Harper. The man in the neatly pressed green vest, with a name tag that seemed older than the plastic it was printed on. Always calm. Too calm. His movements were slow and deliberate, like a puppet waiting for someone to pull the next string. That night, after closing, I stayed back. I told the others I was cleaning the storage closet. Instead, I waited until the floor was silent. James didn't leave. I saw him enter his office and shut the door, the dim light under it flickering like a candle in wind. After about 15 minutes of pacing and battling my nerves, I crept closer. The store was dark now. The only sound was the faint hum of the freezer in aisle 3. I reached the office door and placed my ear against the wood. Silence. Then a low muttering. A voice whispering. No chanting. I tried the doorknob. Locked. My heart pounded. I dropped to the floor and looked through the small gap under the door. At first, I couldn't see anything, just shadows and the bottom of a desk. Then movement. James was sitting upright in his chair. His eyes were open. His mouth moved slowly, repeating something over and over. I couldn't hear all of it, but one line was clear enough to make my blood freeze. Rule 1. Rule 2. Rule 3. Obey. Obey. He said it in a rhythm, like a lullaby sung to something not quite human. And then, without warning, his eyes rolled upward until only the whites showed. He slumped forward, motionless. I scrambled back. My knees scraped the rough linoleum, and I almost knocked over a broom leaning against the wall. I didn't stop until I was back by the mop sink, my breathing loud in my ears. What was he doing? Who chants rules like that while half asleep? I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I wrote the rules again from memory, laying them out in front of me like puzzle pieces. I wanted to believe Jenna had left on her own, that I was imagining things. But the mirror, the voices, the second version of me on the security cam, it all pointed to something else. Something was wrong in this store, and James wasn't managing it. He was guarding it. And if Jenna was right, I had already broken too many rules. And something new. Something was watching. Waiting. I couldn't sleep after Luis told me to stop. His voice shook when he said it, like a man who knew something he couldn't explain. It doesn't like attention. That phrase kept echoing in my head all night, bouncing between the walls of my mind like a warning too late to be useful. But I couldn't stop now. Not after what I saw in the mirror. Not after Jenna vanished. I spent the next day in a fog, stocking shelves with robotic motions, eyes scanning everything. Every aisle, every mirror, every dark corner that seemed too still. James walked past me several times. Each time, he gave a smile that looked like it had been practiced too many times in the mirror. A smile that didn't touch his eyes. That evening, as the sun melted into the snowy horizon, the cold outside crept into my bones. Something told me tonight would be worse. And I was right. It started around 2 a.m. The store was silent, the kind of silence that made you feel like you were the only person left in the world. Tom had gone home early, and Luis was in the back room avoiding me. I sat in the break room, the list of rules folded in my hand like a cursed map. My fingers hovered over rule number 11. Never watched the security feed between 2:13 and 2:16 a.m. Why those minutes? Why such a specific window? I glanced at the dusty old monitor in the corner of the break room. It was still running. Four grainy black and white screens flickered faintly, showing different parts of the store. Aisle 3, the stockroom, the front register, and the loading dock. At 2:12, I walked over and stood in front of it. My heart beat louder than the hum of the screen. I felt like I was standing at the edge of something. A cliff maybe, or a grave. The clock ticked over to 2:13. For a second, nothing happened. Then, the screen showing aisle 3 began to flicker violently. The image twisted and warped, like someone was messing with the tape. But there were no tapes. This was live. And then I saw myself, on the screen, walking down aisle 3. But I was standing in the break room. I blinked. My hands went cold. The version of me on the screen stopped and looked up, directly into the camera. My eyes were too wide. His head tilted slowly, unnaturally, like a puppet on a string. And then he smiled. A slow, wide, stretching smile that looked painful. My legs moved before my brain could stop them. I ran to aisle 3. Empty. Fluorescent lights buzzed above. The shelves were full. Nobody was there. I turned in slow circles, breathing hard. Then I heard it. From the intercom. Whispering. I sprinted back to the break room. 2:15 a.m. Now the screen showed aisle 5. That same version of me stood motionless, just staring at a display of cleaning products. His face now, it had no eyes. Just smooth skin where they used to be. I reached up and unplugged the monitor. The screen went black instantly. Silence returned. I stood there for a full minute, waiting for something, anything, to move. And then I heard a sound from the hallway. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Wet. I pressed my back against the wall, barely breathing. The footsteps grew louder, closer, squishing like boots walking through mud. But I hadn't seen anyone enter the store. And the only door that opened at this hour needed a code. Then it stopped. Right outside the break room. I stared at the doorknob. It began to turn. Not fast. Just slow, deliberate, like someone wanted me to know they were there. I grabbed the closest thing I could find, an old mop, and stood frozen. But the door didn't open. Instead, I heard a whisper through the crack. "You're breaking the rules, Michael." My blood turned to ice. I knew that voice. It was my own. I backed away from the door and ran straight out into the store, knocking over a basket of dollar soap bars. I didn't stop until I was outside, in the parking lot, shivering under the pale blue moon. Luis found me 10 minutes later, pacing in the snow, whispering to myself. He didn't ask what happened. He just helped me inside. By morning he was gone. No one even remembered he worked there. Except me. And I wasn't sure how much longer I'd remember either. I couldn't sleep. Not after what happened with Luis. One moment he was beside me stocking the shelves with cans of expired chili, and the next he was gone. No scream, no footsteps, not even a rustle. Just gone. The air had shifted then, just a little, like something large had sighed from behind the walls. And then silence. The next morning, James said Luis had never worked here. Tom agreed. Even the schedule didn't show his name. They looked at me like I was confused, like I had imagined the whole thing. But I didn't. I know what I saw. I know who Luis was. And I know he's not the first. So I stopped pretending. No more brushing things off. No more ignoring rules that made no sense. I was going to find out what this place was hiding, even if it meant breaking every last one. That's when I saw it. I was in the back room, pretending to organize the mop buckets. The humming of the flickering lights above made my head ache, and the air smelled like rust and pine cleaner. As I leaned over to grab a mop, I caught sight of something in the far corner, something I swear wasn't there before. A door. Not like the others. This one was made of heavy steel. It didn't match the cheap drywall or flimsy wooden back doors of the store. It was matte black, thick, with no window, no sign. Just a handle and a small, circular keyhole. It was cold. I didn't touch it, but I felt the chill coming from it like it was breathing frost. I stepped closer, drawn in. There were no signs on it, no warning, no exit label. Just the door, and the quiet hum that seemed to come from inside it. I wanted to open it. Every nerve in me screamed not to, but I wanted to. Instead, I searched. I knew if a door like that existed, someone before me must have noticed it too. And if they had, maybe they left something behind. That night, after closing, I searched the employee room. In a rusted locker with no name, behind an old apron and a cracked radio, I found it. A notebook. It was wrapped in what looked like plastic grocery bags, bound tightly with masking tape. Dust clung to it like cobwebs. I pulled it out with shaking hands, peeled it open, and started reading. It was a logbook. Each entry had a date, a time, and notes. Some were short. 2:14 a.m., aisle 3 whispering again. Didn't follow rule number 5. Price guns still bleeding. Others were longer. Desperate. Scribbled with shaky writing. One said, I think I saw myself again. 3rd time this week. Still wearing the green hoodie from Monday. He smiled this time. And then, why won't anyone believe me? First it was Sarah. Then Devin. Now Hank. Nobody remembers them. Not even photos. It's like the store eats memories. The final entry made my hands sweat. 11:48 p.m. Door in the back is louder tonight. It's humming louder than usual. I heard someone crying on the other side. Sounded like me. I didn't open it. Not tonight. But I know I will. It wants me to. It's awake again. Don't open the door. Ever. There was a symbol sketched next to the last sentence. Some kind of eye with sharp lines crossing through it. Underneath, scribbled hastily. If you hear your own voice calling you, run. I looked up. The steel door was still there. Still humming. Still waiting. And something about it felt eager. Not loud. Not pushy. But quietly expectant, like it knew I had found the notebook. Like it had been waiting for me all along. And deep inside, beneath the fear, I think a part of me wanted to know what was behind it. That was the night I stopped being just an employee. And became something else entirely. I didn't sleep that day. After reading the final entry in the hidden logbook, it's awake again. Don't open the door. Ever. I sat in the break room for hours, staring at the wall like it might start bleeding or whisper to me. I tried to act normal when James passed by. He didn't say anything, just gave me a nod, like we were both keeping some kind of unspoken agreement. One where I pretended I didn't know the store was alive, and he pretended not to notice that I did. That night, I had the closing shift again. I hated how quiet the store got after 11. It was too clean, too still. Like everything was holding its breath, waiting for something to crawl out of the shadows. I moved between aisles slowly, checking stock I didn't really care about. The ceiling lights buzzed above, flickering every now and then. The air felt wrong, heavier than usual. My skin itched like something invisible was watching me from the end of every aisle. Around 1:45 a.m., I stepped out back to take the trash out. And I saw it. The sky was clear. Stars dotted the black canvas above. But that wasn't what made me freeze. There were 2 moons in the sky. One was the normal pale moon, hanging high and harmless. But the second one, the one just above the treetops behind the store, was red. Deep, pulsing red. Almost like it was alive. And it wasn't far away. It looked close, like if I climbed the roof, I could jump and touch it. My breath caught in my throat. Rule number 12 from the list suddenly screamed in my mind. Do not acknowledge the second moon. But it was too late. I was already staring. At first, it didn't move. It just sat there, hovering in silence. But then, I swear I saw it blink. One long, slow blink. And then the world around me bent. The parking lot twisted sideways. My legs gave out, and I dropped to the pavement. The yellow lines on the asphalt stretched like rubber. The trash bag I was holding floated into the air and unraveled itself, spinning slowly, pieces of plastic twisting like feathers in water. The door behind me swung open on its own. A breeze that smelled like rotten meat blew out from the store. The overhead lights above the loading dock began to hum, louder and louder, until the sound shook my bones. I turned to look, and the store was changing. The windows pulsed like lungs. The shelves shifted and reformed behind the glass, creating aisles that shouldn't exist. Products floated into the air, rearranging themselves into unfamiliar patterns. I could hear screams, muffled and distant, echoing from somewhere deep inside the building. And through it all, the red moon pulsed. I couldn't tell how long I stood there, staring. Time didn't make sense anymore. My phone screen cracked in my pocket. The concrete below me had gone soft and wet, like warm clay. Then suddenly I blinked, and it all snapped back. The store was normal again. The sky was black, the real moon shining quietly. And the red moon was gone. I scrambled to my feet and rushed back inside, locking the door behind me. I was shaking, heart slamming in my chest like it was trying to escape. Luis was gone. Jenna was gone. I was next. I could feel it. I had broken too many rules. But it wasn't just about the rules anymore. Something was awake now. And it had seen me. I didn't sleep that morning. My hands were still shaking from what I saw outside. The second moon, low and silver, hovering like a silent eye above the horizon. No one else saw it. At least, no one else reacted. Maybe they weren't allowed to. Maybe I was the only one left who could. I got to the store early, long before opening hours. I knew James would be there. He always was, but I didn't care anymore. Whatever was happening here, it was buried in secrets, and James was at the center of it. The hallway outside his office was quiet. Too quiet. I could hear the buzzing from the flickering lights above, the soft hum of the freezers near the back, and beneath it all, something else. A faint thumping, like a heartbeat, coming from deep below. James wasn't in the office. His desk was clean, almost unnaturally so. No papers, no pens, not even a coffee mug. But the cabinet on the left side was unlocked. I knelt down and pulled it open. Photos. Dozens of them. All of James. The same face, the same empty smile. But each photo was dated. 2004, 1996, 1982, even one from 1971, black and white, stained at the edges. He hadn't aged. Not a single wrinkle, not a gray hair. Just that same cold look in his eyes. Behind the photos, there was a key taped to the back of the drawer. Small, silver, and marked with red paint, before. Beside it was a rolled-up piece of yellowing paper, blueprints of the store. My breath caught as I unfolded it. The Dollar Tree layout was there, but there was more. An entire section labeled B4 sublevel. It wasn't supposed to exist. A hidden floor, buried beneath the break room and freezer aisle. The steel door. The one I had seen humming with cold air. Suddenly, the doorknob behind me clicked. I froze. Looking for something, Michael? James stood in the doorway. Calm, hands folded in front of him. Not angry. Not surprised. Just tired. I stood up slowly, keeping the key hidden in my fist. I want the truth, I said. My voice shook, but I didn't back down. What is this place? What's behind that door? James sighed and stepped inside, closing the door behind him. I was hoping you'd stop, he said softly. You're smarter than the others. You see more. Feel more. I saw Jenna, I blurted out. I saw Luis. They didn't just quit. You erased them. James didn't deny it. Instead, he sat down at his desk, folding his hands. This store was built on cursed ground, he said. Black Hollow has been feeding it for generations. A wound deep under the earth. It's always hungry, always watching. He looked me in the eye. The rules keep it asleep. Keep it contained. But every so often, someone breaks too many rules. And it wakes up. I thought of the mirror in aisle 7. The second moon. The humming door. The whispers that knew my name. It takes people? I asked. No, James said. It trades for them. Trades? He nodded. Every employee who disappears, someone else gets to stay a little longer. You obey, you get to keep your face, your memories. But if you dig too deep, his eyes dropped to the blueprints still open on the desk. It notices. I felt sick. So you just let it happen? I don't let it, he said. I manage it. There's a difference. And before you judge me, remember you stayed too. I looked down. He wasn't wrong. I should have run the first night. But something kept pulling me back. James stood and walked to the window. I've worked here longer than I remember, he whispered. I don't know who hired me. I don't know if I ever had a life outside these walls. All I know is this. If that door opens, it won't just take this town. My grip tightened on the key. Then why lock it at all? I asked. Why not destroy it? He turned to me, his eyes hollow and cold. Because you can't destroy what was here first. My heart pounded in my chest. The blueprint in my hand felt like a map to something I wasn't meant to find. But now I had the key. I had the knowledge. And I knew what I had to do. I was going to open that door. Even if it killed me. I shouldn't have opened that door. But I did. The key I found in James's office, labeled B4, fit into the lock like it was waiting for me. As I turned it, a heavy metal click echoed down the silent hallway, louder than it should have been. The air around me shifted, thicker, colder, heavier. It wasn't just a storage room. I could feel that before I even stepped inside. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a narrow stairwell leading down into complete darkness. No lights, no sounds, just a smell. Damp, earthy, and something else, like rust and rot mixed together. I paused, gripping my flashlight with sweaty hands. I wanted to turn back. Every part of me screamed, don't go down there. But curiosity has teeth, and it had already sunk deep into me. I stepped inside. The door shut behind me with a loud slam. I spun around, heart pounding. It locked itself. The flashlight flickered once, but stayed on. The walls were made of old stone, damp and rough, like a forgotten basement. As I went deeper, the air grew colder. My breath came out in visible puffs. My footsteps echoed strangely, as if they weren't alone. After what felt like forever, the stairs ended in a small chamber. That's when I saw it. The room wasn't made of stone anymore. It was alive. The walls pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. They were dark red and slick, breathing in and out, as if the room itself was a living thing. A deep hum filled the air. It didn't come from a machine or vent. It came from inside the walls, low, steady, and full of hunger. And in the center of the room, a heart. Not metaphorical. A real, massive, black, beating heart. Suspended in the air. Tubes, if you could call them that, like twisted roots or veins, stretched out from it, disappearing into the walls. It thumped rhythmically, shaking the floor beneath my feet. Then I heard them. Whispers. Dozens of voices, maybe hundreds. They came from the walls. I turned and saw faces, dozens of them, pushed against the pulsing flesh of the chamber. Eyes wide, mouths open, trapped in silent screams. Jenna. Luis. Even some I didn't recognize. All employees, all people who broke the rules. Their faces weren't rotting or ghostly. They were preserved like they had been swallowed whole. I stepped back in horror, flashlight trembling in my hands. Then something spoke. Not in a language I understood, but I felt it in my mind. Trade. Obey. Or take your place. It came from the heart. Not with a voice, but with a pressure inside my skull. I dropped the flashlight. It rolled across the floor and stopped at James' feet. He was there. I didn't hear him come in, but he was standing by the wall, eyes hollow, face pale. You shouldn't be here, Michael, he said quietly. You weren't meant to see this. What is this? I asked, my voice shaking. What is this place? He looked at the heart, then back at me. It's older than the store. Older than Black Hollow. We built over it. And it accepted the arrangement. Rules, obedience, sacrifices. In return, it stays quiet. Most of the time. I stared at him, unable to believe it. So all of this. Jenna, Luis, the rules, it was to feed that thing. It doesn't want food, James said. It wants order. It wants control. Chaos makes it angry. The rules are the only thing keeping it from waking fully. I backed away. You're insane. No, James said, stepping closer. I've kept it asleep for over 20 years. But you broke too many rules, Michael. The heart throbbed faster. The whispers grew louder. James looked desperate now. You have to choose. Give it something. Yourself, someone else, a memory, something. Or it will take what it wants. I looked at the walls. The faces. They weren't dead. They were trapped. I turned toward the stairs, heart racing. The door was still closed at the top. But I had to try. I had to get out before it made the choice for me. As I climbed, the whispers followed. One of them sounded like me. And it was laughing. I stood frozen in front of the steel door. The cold air pouring out of it didn't feel like air at all. It felt like it was breathing on me. Like the thing behind it was alive and waiting. Inside, the room wasn't really a room. It was a space that bent and stretched, like it didn't follow normal rules. The walls pulsed softly, like veins under skin. The floor shifted under my feet, like I was standing on something alive. In the center, a massive dark shape beat slowly, like a heart made of shadows and smoke. And all around me were the faces. Jenna, Luis, Tom, even the old assistant manager I'd seen in one photo in James' office. Their faces were stretched into the walls, half asleep, half awake. Their eyes moved, following me. Some of them whispered. Others just cried. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. The thing in the center spoke, not with words, but with a sound that filled my head like static and thunder. Trade. Obey. Or take your place. The words weren't suggestions. They were commands. And I could feel something reaching into me, twisting around my thoughts. It wanted me to choose. Behind me, James stood with a strange calm in his eyes. You don't belong here anymore, Michael, he said. His voice was different. Older. Tired. You knew this would happen, I said, not even recognizing my own voice. You brought me here to feed it. He nodded slowly. It must be fed. Not with food, but with order. With obedience. That's why the rules exist. Break them, and it notices. And the people? I whispered. The ones who disappeared? They didn't obey. The rules are not just rules. They are seals. Break enough of them, and it reaches out. I shook my head. My fists clenched. You expect me to just let this keep going? He sighed. The store resets. New hires come. They're given the list. Some survive. Some don't. But the cycle keeps the rest of the world safe. I looked back at the faces in the walls. Jenna's eyes were full of pain, but also something else, hope. A flicker of light. No, I wasn't going to be another pawn in this sick game. There has to be another way, I said. There isn't, James replied. Obey or escape. That's when I saw it. The emergency hatch in the far corner, half hidden behind shifting shadows. Maybe it wasn't supposed to be there. Or maybe the store itself was giving me a choice. I turned back toward James. Then I choose neither. He looked at me for a long moment. And for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. I ran. The moment I moved, the shadows screamed. Not loud, but deep, inside my chest, in my bones. The floor cracked beneath me. The walls tried to shift and block my way, but I ducked, rolled, and dove for the hatch. My hands fumbled with the wheel. It was cold, slippery, but it turned. The hatch burst open, and I fell through into darkness. I don't know how long I fell. Time didn't work the same way down there. I saw flashes of other stores, other faces, other doors, and then I hit solid ground. When I woke up, I was lying in a cornfield miles outside Black Hollow. The town was gone. The store? No trace. Not even the road that once led there. I walked for hours until a passing truck picked me up and dropped me off in the next town. I tried to go back later. Of course I did. But Black Hollow doesn't show up on any maps anymore. It's like it was never there. I moved to a new state. Got a job at a gas station. Tried to live normal again. But 2 weeks ago, I came home to find something taped to my fridge. A list. Written in red ink. Titled, Employee Conduct, Non-Negotiable Rules. First rule, don't think you can run. Now, every night at exactly 3 a.m., the intercom in the gas station crackles on. And I hear someone whispering my name. It's been 3 months since I left Black Hollow. I haven't told anyone what really happened. How could I? Who would believe that a Dollar Tree store had a door to something ancient, hungry, and cruel? That a man named James, who never aged and never blinked, was guarding it with a list of bizarre rules. I told myself it was over. That if I just walked away, whatever was behind that steel door would stay sealed. I even convinced myself that it needed the store to exist. That without the rules, without the Dollar Tree, it would stay asleep. But deep down I knew better. I moved to a small town in Minnesota. A peaceful place with kind people and quiet streets. I got a job stocking shelves at a local hardware store. Nothing strange. No list. No cameras watching my every move. Just regular, boring work. And for a while, it felt like life again. Until last night. I came home after a late shift. My apartment was dark, but something felt wrong. Not in the way you'd expect. Not like someone had broken in. No, it felt like the air was watching me. I turned on the kitchen light. And there it was. A sheet of paper pinned to my fridge with a red pushpin I didn't own. Employee conduct, non-negotiable rules. Same handwriting. Same blood-colored ink. Same heavy, suffocating feeling pressing down on my chest. I stepped closer, heart pounding in my ears. The first rule on the list? Rule number 1, don't think you can run. I stared at it for a long time, unable to breathe. My hands shook as I reached out, touching the paper like it might burn me. The rest of the list was blank. Just the first rule. That was all it needed. I crumpled the paper and tossed it in the trash. Told myself it was a sick joke. Maybe James had found me. Maybe someone else who worked at that cursed store wanted to scare me. But then, the intercom in my hallway buzzed. It shouldn't have. Nobody had pressed the call button. And I don't have any deliveries scheduled. I stepped to the wall unit, my finger hovering over the speaker. Then it spoke. Not in a voice I knew. Not even in English. It was the same whisper I heard the night I looked into the mirror in aisle 7. That same hollow tone, echoing like it came from under the earth. Words I couldn't understand, but somehow still felt inside my bones. I didn't press the button. I didn't move. I just stood there, staring at the speaker, as it buzzed and hissed and whispered my name. Michael. 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 I don't know what it wants now. I don't know what rule I've already broken. But I do know one thing. It followed me. And the list, it's just beginning again.